All right, I think we're live. You guys
Yeah.
hear me?
Can hear you.
All righty. Hey, everyone in the comments, let us know where you guys are tuning in from. Caleb will maybe say where he's tuning in from today. Might have a little surprise there.
We can say it, and then I'll maybe just have a little visual surprise in a little bit. I'm coming to you from the home of golf, where it was invented and discovered, and where God created the courses with his thumb. I'm in Scotland. I'm in the beautiful town of St. Andrews, and it is still light. It's actually 9 p.m. here. It's 4 p.m. Eastern for those that are watching this later, and it is still plenty light outside. The sun doesn't set till like 10:45, and it is glorious. So people walk through 400-year-old buildings. They're walking through town with their golf clubs and set it down, grab a pint of Guinness, and go do it tomorrow. So it is beautiful. The course is a kind of a lottery system to get in. And so one of my buddies actually did this before, pre-COVID. He got a spot for 4, and then his buddy picked up a twosome. So we ended up with 6 guys over here and got to play the old course. The other way to get on it is you can actually camp out overnight. So that I walked by tonight just about an hour ago, and there's a dad and his son were here for one last day. They're camping out overnight, hoping to get on the course tomorrow morning. So fingers crossed for those fellas.
So people just camp out hoping to get in?
Yeah, so golf in Scotland is really interesting. Like country clubs in the U.S. tend to be really overpriced. Like it's not uncommon to have country clubs that are, $20, $40, $50, $100,000. It's like absolutely insane. It's incredibly elite, and golf is getting more and more approachable. In Scotland, some of these beautiful courses might only be 400 or 500 pounds, $500-600 a year to join, and it's not exclusive. They're private, they're members only, but they're also incredibly open to visitors. So they want you to be a member. They'll take your money, but just as a visitor, you can go play. Some of these beautiful link style courses will be 15 or 20 pounds, $20 to $25. They're not expensive. It's designed to be played. It's designed to be shared. It's designed to be social, and it's really cool.
So what's your handicap? Are you willing to share it?
I am willing to share. It's going the wrong direction. I actually got it down to a 0.7, so nearly scratch. As I teed off yesterday, I was a 3.7. Part of that's playing harder courses. Part of it is handicap is your best 8 of your last 20, and mine is slipping right now. So that's all right. We've been working hard on some software things that we'll be sharing over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, golf is kind of a pendulum. It ebbs and flows. And right now it's ebbing and not flowing. Is that the right way to say it?
Caleb, I've got a question. You mentioned that there's a truck passing by. You mentioned that people line up to try to get into the courses.
Yeah.
Like once it opens, is it like the start of a book sale where everyone just rushes in, first come, first serve, or is it pretty orderly?
No, so there's tee times, and then it's pretty orderly. Golfers tend to get, in general, golfers are pretty respectful of each other. Like I left my clubs out in front to go like in one of the pubs. You just leave it in an alley. No one's going to steal your clubs. Like there's an honor there. One, they're not going to fit somebody else necessarily, but it's pretty safe. You don't really have to worry about that. So they stand in line, and the first person in, they say, hey, we've got, 4 no-shows or 4 cancellations. And so the first, 4 people would get those spots essentially.
Gotcha.
And it's pretty straightforward. I'm rethinking my college decision because if you go to the University of St. Andrews, not only is it a top school, I think it just passed Oxford in terms of like scores or ratings or whatever. Like it's one of the top 5 schools in the world. And if you're a student there, you get free golf.
Wow, and that's pretty cool.
There's the old course, obviously, is very, very famous. The 150th Open, so what used to be called the British Open, will be here in July. But there's 7 courses: new course, Jubilee, Eden, old course, all those. So there's phenomenal golf, and like I said, the munis in the area are just stunning. We actually have somebody here that's from Aberdeen, Scotland, just bought their first pallet of books. So hey, I didn't know there was local people watching. If I'd known, we would have grabbed a pint. If you, I don't know how close Aberdeen is to St. Andrews, but if you would like, after the call, swing on over. We can grab a pint if stuff's still open, which it tends to be. Europe is very chill. I know, David, you've traveled a bit. Matthew, have you been to Europe at all?
I've not. I've never been to Europe. It's still on the list.
I love the culture. It might be harder for you with kids right now, but dinner's not typically till 8 or 9 p.m. And so you tend to have a slower day, kind of a longer drawn out lunch. And then dinner is kind of a social event that might last 2 or 3 hours. And
A
they
lot
don't.
of cultures have later dinners, don't they? I think we eat pretty early in the U.S. from what I've heard.
Yeah,
At least.
we try and be efficient, and restaurants try and turn the tables and get you in and out as fast as possible. Most of Europe and probably a lot of the world as well, it's rude for them to like bring the check to you without you requesting it. So even if they're busy, like if you don't know the rules, you'll be sitting there with your buddies like, hey, they haven't come by in a while. They purposely leave you alone when you're done, and they wait for you to call them over and ask for the check because it's considered.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Nice.
Well, enough about Scotland. We've anything major in the world of Amazon lately? We kind of start this off with just a little segment, and then we do have a special guest, which I think we already alluded to and shared in the notes, but we'll bring him in shortly. But before we do that, any happenings either in your personal worlds or in the world of Amazon lately?
It's about 80 miles, it looks like they said.
Oh, man.
80 miles at the bottom. So what were you saying, David? I cut you off.
I will be. So we can rain check that one.
Yeah, nothing really new here. I've noticed sales have started to uptick a little bit for us, at least. I'm not sure if that's across the board, but yeah, sales are finally kind of picking up from the spring, slump that we had.
The doldrums.
Yeah, exactly.
I've noticed stronger sales the last 2 weeks, but I also sent a couple pallets in, so that tends to help with sales. But I have seen consistently stronger. So I don't know if you guys are seeing that as well. Post there. We should do, with all the customers we have, we should probably make some sort of an index, because people always post in the groups like, hey, sales have been awesome or sales have been really slow. It'd be really interesting if we made like just a generic market index that shared on average what's the turn rate or some kind of metrics across all of our users, so that people can see and say, hey, the tide is actually rising. And so, yes, I'm doing well, but so's the market. Or I'm crushing it, the market's not. Maybe my repricer is screwed up. That'd be interesting.
That would be really interesting to see how correlated everyone's accounts are to each other. That'd be fun to see.
Somebody said gas prices are up.
I noticed gas prices are up. Yeah, gas prices are up. Gas prices are way more expensive in Arizona for some reason than Utah and Colorado right now. Probably because we don't have, any refineries nearby, I guess, or something like that. But they are crazy here. But I think they're going up crazy everywhere. Where are they right now, David, around you? Do you know?
It's $4 for regular, and then
just $4?
Yeah,
like
it's like $4 for a regular, $5 for a premium right now.
That's crazy. So I think the closest gas station to us right now is $5.35 for regular.
My goodness.
Wow.
It's $4.40 in Indiana.
Ridiculous right now. It was $5.19 like 2 days ago. Now it's like $5.35 everywhere.
Wow. I will say one interesting thing here is there's plenty of bookstores.
Mike Kreider said $6.49. That makes sense. California.
Bookstores are really strong here. I don't know about all of Europe, but in Scotland, there's like 2 or 3 in the town of St. Andrews, which is not that big of a town. And one of them is pretty, like, it looks like just a small storefront. I went in it and kind of meandered and actually bought just a couple because it's fun to peruse. And you're like, oh, I could read that and bring it back home, throw it in the pile of books that I still haven't read yet. But they are actually buying or leasing the spot next to them and renovating it. And they're actually doubling the size of the bookstore. So it's good. It's not even new books. Like I know Greg Murphy, a bunch of other people in the US kind of run bookstores in addition to a bulk business. I know, Dave, you've got kind of a little charity environment next door to your setup as well, which is pretty sweet. These are all brand new books and they seem to be crushing it. So, just N of one. I don't know if that's true for all of Europe, but at least here in Scotland, there's some pretty good stuff.
And you have no issues reading those books, even though it's another country?
Reading them? No, English is English. I do.
I don't know. Scottish English might be a little different,
I think Gaelic is the original spin-off of that, and it sounds more like pirate language, which probably sounds incredibly insensitive to all my Gaelic friends out there. But I do tend to pick up the accents when I travel, and I'm sure it just sounds incredibly rude. So I try not to, but my ears pick up on it, and it's kind of fun to hear.
That would be pretty funny to hear.
Well, cool. Well, without further ado, we actually have a special guest tonight, and we reached out to him. We gave him plenty of advance notice, I think about 2 hours, and he was very gracious and came on. It's a man that needs no introduction. He stands metaphorically about 7 feet tall, and in real life, he's probably about 6'5", maybe.
6'4", thank you.
Or sorry, I'm sure your basketball stats in high school said 6'5" because everybody inflates. But coming to you live, probably from Illinois. I don't know where this man is on any given time, but we got the one and only Bill Martlink. So everybody say hello to Bill. Give him a warm welcome.
Hey, Bill.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. When I joined promptly at 3 o'clock, I mean, I had an empty bottle. So, I mean, this is fascinating conversation, and you can see the damage I did. So
this is great.
God only knows what I'll talk about today. But
so we might have to
so happy to be here too. I mean, it really means a lot to be on the 6th episode. As a Chicagoan, we all know the Bulls, the most cherished championship was number 6. So I'll take that as your kind of hidden thing to me. But yeah, I mean, 1 through 5. Okay. Here I am.
And we bring up the Cubs. When are the Cubs going to get a 6th world championship?
How dare you? How dare you? Blasphemy.
I'm aware.
Anyway,
South side run strong with Bill.
almost forgot. Every drink is better with a little umbrella.
Boy. All right, so
Got
Bill,
that umbrella in there.
and for those that don't know, which bottle you got there?
I went with, so as you most of you know, bourbon's fine, but I'm more of a Jack Daniels guy, so I'm going with the special occasion Jack Daniels Frank Sinatra edition. Very, very smooth, very, very delicious. Orange cap also. I mean, they have good taste there. And splash a little Coke. I have many Jack Daniels at my disposal, so depending on how long this goes, we might try some others. But yeah,
Perfect.
And I have a giant bottle of Jack Daniels too. I had to import. It's the largest, a 3-liter bottle.
It's got like a frame around it.
Yeah, it's a pourer type of thing. So.
Did you stretch before you lifted that up? My back just like went out watching you lift that.
Oh, biggest bottle they make. So
Wow.
not just for me. Though.
I like the wine rack you got there too.
Thank you. Something for everyone here. So anyone ever comes by, we have, take the best background of 1 through 6 as well. So setting the bar high for 7, 8, 9, and 10 if you make it.
And beyond. Come on now. Setting the literal and metaphorical bar quite high. Matthew, what are you drinking?
So I'm breaking the trend one more time, but I might grab a bourbon again too. But I've just got a Four Peaks. I don't know if you can see if I block out my face. I might zoom in on it, maybe. So it's Four Peaks Brewing. I just spilled on myself. The Joy Bus. It's a wheat beer. It's really, really good. It's a Four Peaks, one out of Tempe, Arizona. Something I've had for a while. Just nice, refreshing on an afternoon since it is only 1 o'clock here. But I still might pull out a bourbon in a little bit.
Classy. It's called the Joy Bus.
Yeah, it's called the Joy Bus, which is fitting.
That is very fitting.
For those that don't know, my wife's name is Joy.
Dave, what do you got? I think I saw a coffee mug.
Yeah, I'm in detox mode today.
Oh boy.
Still recovering from a pretty wild weekend, so just drinking a little bit of coffee.
All right. Was this wedding weekend?
It was wedding weekend, and then on Tuesday after we got back, there's a new sushi place opening down the street from my place, and it's a soft opening. Everything was half off, and I went there with some friends thinking I'm not going to drink, but then they were insisting on splitting a sake, and I was like, sure. And then I saw the price of beer on there is a $6 beer, but it's half off, so it's $3.
No.
So I was like, I'll do a beer as well. Like pretty much by the end of the night, we were there for 4 hours, and we knocked off every single sake on their list. On top of that, they sent over beers to our table on the house. It was just like I did not plan on getting that turn on a Tuesday, and Wednesday was like yesterday was like literally the worst day ever. It was horrible.
Boy. Well, so this can be kind of a little public service announcement for those that want to run their own business. You too can get turned on a Tuesday night. I'm in Dave's camp. I actually have a cup of coffee here. It's actually instant coffee, surprisingly good. It's I wouldn't recommend it in general, but it's 9 p.m. here. I just had like an earlier dinner. I ate at 7:30 just so I could jump on here, and I'll probably go back out. It's our last night in Scotland, so we'll probably go back out to the pub. And I've been digging. It's an Ardbeg 10-year, so it's Scotch, although they just call it whiskey. I guess when we import it to the U.S., we put the Scotch label on it and call it Scottish whiskey or Scotch. But it's just whiskey, not bourbon. Bourbon has to be made in America. Bourbon is not very big. Bill, you'd be very excited. Pretty much it's Jim Beam and Jack Daniels here that you could find. That's about it. I
Great
did
country.
see
Great
Blanton, and that's about it in terms of that here. So they don't have a lot of U.S. bourbon. It's primarily whiskey. And the Ardbeg 10 has a very good amount of smoky flavor, which I actually like. Some people don't. I think they call it peated. So I've been enjoying that, and I'll probably go find one last drink before we head out in the morning.
Well, cheers. Yeah.
Yeah, cheers.
So Bill, we'll put you on the spot with a couple things. First off, and then I know Dave actually has some really detailed questions. So our goal is to make you sweat by the end of the evening. We'll see what we do. And for those that are watching, again, let us know where you're watching from. I know several of you are at work or trying to sneak some views. Especially, I think Diane was trying to do that. So if you are at work, put the phone down. You don't need to see our ugly mugs. You can just listen to us. Hopefully, pick up a few nuggets. Bill has been selling books longer than Dave Matthew. Oh, we got Dave Matthews. Why did I never put this together?
Dave Matthews.
We literally
We gotta
have
switch our faces right here. Now it's Dave Matthew.
Oh my gosh, I never realized this. Well, Bill's been selling books longer than well, Dave's been selling for a long time as well. But for certain, me and Matthew put together, and he sells more books probably in a day than we sell in a month. So pretty impressive, and we'll kind of hear some of that story as well. But 2 questions for you, Bill. One, why can't I come visit your warehouse? We're just going to throw that one out there.
I just want to remind everyone that I started at the age of 2. So yes, I've been doing this for 25 years. We have to remember, keep in mind, I started very, very young. So putting that out there. I mean, the warehouse is open and we're employing people every day. So, I mean, there's applications at the door, and if we accept you, then you're free to, look around. But I don't know. We just,
what kind of background checks do you do? What kind of background checks do you do?
You'd never pass.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't. It's HR. HR does that. I mean, they do their screening, but I mean, yeah,
that's fair. All right. Second real question is: end of June, we're going to be doing a little Scout IQ powwow in Denver. So if you're looking for an excuse to come to Denver,
July.
Yeah, let's make it July. We'll talk about this offline, but let's do July.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk. I guess June's filling up quickly. Our team's going to be in June. So if you are in Denver in June and want to come grab drinks or bourbon or meat pies or whatever, we'll be hanging out. And Turn the Pages are coming back. I think I saw Michael Kreider somewhere in here earlier. Yep, he was there earlier. So Mike was one of our guests a couple weeks ago, I think episode 4. He's been trying to get us to do a Turn the Page in Vegas. And so that will be happening in 2022, as well as a couple other to be determined locations. So those are my questions. We would love to see you in Denver, Bill. We'll try and get some, maybe a smaller meetup. I think we actually want to do a Turn the Page in Denver. So if that happens, you'll be on the invite list. Absolutely.
So is it 2 trips to Denver? Because I mean, I'm in for both. That'd be great.
I know you like to get out of the house. So yes, it's nice to travel, see the US, check things out, maybe bring the golf clubs. We'll see.
I'm in.
So for those that don't know, Bill, can you give us a little 30-second, well, maybe 3-minute overview, kind of what you do now, and then kind of how you got your start in the book business, and then we'll kind of get into a few questions.
Sure thing. So Sell Back Your Book has started in 2007 officially, and they were focused on a consumer end tool, sellbackyourbook.com. And people would ship in items to us box by box, professors, students, people moving, people dying, culling their bookshelves, whatever, getting rid of stuff. And it was a pretty good business as it grew year over year. And I knew the owner for many, many years, even before he officially started this venture, and kind of helped him get a start. And we did some projects a little bit together. I mentored him, but right away I knew that I would someday learn from him. And I told him that, I think, the second time I met him. Magnificent human being and individual to work with and work for. And a couple years ago, I had this. I was selling books through my mobile bookstore, and I would travel around the country to all different cities and do like a mobile pop-up book sale, right? And I also had the online business at the same time, and it was great because we would be able to sell items that weren't marginable online at these book festivals, and we'd get cash, we'd get credit, we'd move a lot of inventory, and I got smarter along the way, but built up a inventory base in the city I would go to. So I'd have folks scanning for me for the events, and I would pay them pretty handily. And then I got even smarter because I would sell some of my inventory to them when I left. So they loved me in town because I'd give them money on the way in and items on the way out. And it was a great relationship. But through that was the birth of the bulk program, because I knew that different businesses and different folks that are scanning doing the same thing we're doing have different margins, different cutoffs, different levels, different metrics, right? And someone doing this all my life since age of 2, as I mentioned. I love books. Right? Are with the folks that buy these books, right? Through good times, through bad, through sickness, through health, through self-improvement, getting through tough time, whatever, right? And a little bit of me is with millions of people, and that's what really, the money's nice, the accolades are great. I love being in business. I love employing people. I love all that. But the best part to me is keeping the books in the system, read, printed, moving, knowledge flowing. Right? To me, it's just great to think of like all the people I touched and the joy that I would get at these cities. I had regular people that would come to these events specifically for me and my booths, and I scaled that business pretty handily. Unfortunately, the pandemic completely turned that obviously upside down. But luckily, by just good fortune and good timing, I was already at Sell Back Your Book for about a year and a half. So I really got my feet wet with working with Glenn and for organization, and got to know the business better, and it just kind of all worked out. And met Caleb, Dave, and Matthew along the way, and this is the dream team of folks I'm talking to here. So it's super exciting. So, and nothing but respect. So, and I've got to meet you all several times and hang out, and it's just great to do this here. So I appreciate the invite. I joked about being number 6, but it's fine. No,
we're happy to have you on. A couple people have been asking. That sounds very, very scammy. People have been asking, my secret, but people have been asking us to get you on, and it was kind of fun. Matthew showed that script back from our Orange Wall office when we had the Scout IQ office in Denver. Rest in peace, Denver. I miss you. Please come back soon. He's ready for it.
We're babies.
Matthew's killing it with the graphics, by the way. These look so good. I wish you could.
Sell Back Your Book is even featured under Scout IQ. Was the perfect thing for this episode.
For sure.
No,
I almost wore that same shirt today too. I still have it, still fits, but then I saw the graphic that Matthew sent out, and I said I can't wear that again. So
he's been wearing it for a few years. So people in the comments, let me know if you're still having trouble hearing Bill at all. A few people said that you cut out, but I was hearing you perfectly fine the whole time. So let me know if you guys can hear everyone right now well in the comments, or if you guys are still having any issues. Caleb and David, you guys can hear everything okay, right?
I saw the comments. Everything's perfect here.
Yeah, I saw like 4 or 5 comments, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, if you are having issues, this is all being live streamed to YouTube. So it looks like people are having issues on YouTube, you can join the Facebook group, the Book Flipper community on Facebook. And of course, this will be available as replay. And if we have to, we'll dig up the footage somewhere else. So if it gets unbearable, you can always tune in at a different time. But hopefully it refreshes for y'all.
We could just do it again number 7 too. I'll just do it exactly again, like verbatim, no problem.
In true developer status, we're just going to say it's all your guys' fault. So it's probably your internet and in no way related to StreamYard. But we are unaffiliated with StreamYard, so we could throw them under the bus as well. So hopefully it's looking good. See some good comments there as well. So
there could be one issue. I'm in my basement, and the air conditioning system runs a little bit, so that could have been part of it as well. So
all right. Well, we did say we want you to sweat, so if you could just turn that off, we'll let that run.
True, good.
So a couple of things you mentioned. One, just a love for books. Question for each of you here, and if you're watching this as well, what's a good book you've read recently? And I'll lead off just to kind of blow things up. Actually, I have a copy of it. Let me just grab it 1 second. While you guys are thinking, if you guys are watching, comment what book you've been reading lately, and we'll kick things off with Matthew as I just grab this book shortly.
Yeah, so I'm actually in the middle of 2 books right now. I tend to do that. I get ahead of myself and start reading a book, and then some other book is released, and I start reading that one too. But the 2 books that I'm reading, one of them, pull them up here so I can make sure I get all the titles of these right. It's called The Hawk Method, so it's a marketing book. So anyone that's into marketing, there's a guy I've been following for a long time named Eric Huberman, I believe is the last name, Eric Huberman. He's a great marketer. He's a young guy. He's been on the Forbes 30 under 30 yet list probably for the whole time he's been in his 20s. I think he's just got into his 30s now. But he has a marketing firm I think he's grown to a little over $150 million. And so it's a book on his method of marketing and connecting with an audience. And so I've been learning a lot going through that book that was actually just released a little while ago. And the other one I'm reading right now is called The Nail Habit. It's something I read a long time ago. I loved it. And then one of those books you kind of put aside and forget about. And then I pulled it back up the other day. I started reading it and I was like, why in the world did I forget about this book? And why did I not implement more of these things? Because I knew how good they were back then when I first read it. So I'm going through that book again. I'm on chapter 2, and it's a gold mine of information on how to be more productive and actually get the work done you need to do. It's easy to do the fun work and procrastinate and the stuff you don't want to do. And this kind of shows you some methods to get around that and actually put in the work where it needs to be done and be able to get yourself to do those hard things. So those are the 2 books I'm reading right now.
Love it. You've always got good self-help type books. I always like picking your brain and hearing what you're up to. The book I'm reading right now, since I'm here, is a course called Scotland. Tom Coyne is a brilliant author. I'm about halfway through. I've heard that the book kind of takes a turn, but he wrote a book on Ireland, a course called Ireland, I believe. He went to Ireland, played, I believe, every Link style course in the country. And then he went to Scotland. He wanted to play every course on the open rota, which is the open rotation. So Carnoustie, the old course, all the classic Link style course, as well as every Link style course, which is on the ocean. So Link style means it's on sand, built by the ocean. Typically, there's very little movement of dirt. In the US, we like to build grand scale and push dirt around with bulldozers. Back then, they didn't have that luxury. And so, however, Mother Nature and God formed the earth, they just put the golf course on it. So it's an interesting story. He actually wants to try and qualify for the Open. So that's kind of where the book is going. But it's fascinating. You get the history of where you're going to be going. And if you're not into reading, which I hope many of you are since you're flipping books, but it doesn't mean you have to love it. It's really cool when you go somewhere and travel to understand the history, whether that's from reading, whether it's watching YouTube videos. It just helps you appreciate where you're going and kind of soak up more of the tradition as well. Dave, you reading anything interesting right now?
I just pulled it up because I couldn't remember the full title. I just finished a book not too long ago called Tattered Cover Bookstore, A Storied History. It's talks about the history of the Tattered Cover, which is a local institution here in Denver. They went through some ownership change in the last 2 years, and they've got a group of investors now, but for the longest time it was owned and operated by local here named Joyce, and she ran it for about 40 years or so and really grew it into a institution here in Denver. And so it was just really interesting reading about the history of the Tattered Cover, I guess. One of the things I remember reading about, but reading the book refreshed my memory. There was a really interesting case involving the Tattered Cover where there was like a First Amendment rights case where it went all the way to the Supreme Court. I guess a patron had purchased a book from the Tattered Cover, and that patron then went to make methamphetamine. And so like the local police, they wanted the Tattered Cover to like show their records to show what book that he bought. But, the Tattered Cover refused to share their customers, information with them. And so it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Long story short, Tattered Cover won, ended up being where the book that this person purchased was on Japanese calligraphy. So it had nothing to do with it, but Tattered Cover at that point in time was like heralded as a defender of free speech, and they got a lot of publicity for that. The other book that I started, but it was kind of slow to start off. It's called Pleased But Not Satisfied by D.L. Sokol. I encourage everyone to Google that because I read about this book on Reddit, and by the time I went on Amazon to try to buy it, I saw the chart. It was $100 at one point, and the only used copy that I could find, like the cheapest one, was $200 at that point.
My goodness.
And there was like 2 copies left online, and so I just went ahead and pulled the trigger and I bought it. And I just pulled it up right now, and there are no used copies on Amazon. There's only one new available for $395. The sales rank is 1.6 million, but it's probably not a lack of demand, more so a lack of supply. But yeah, I mean, after I read it, I'll probably send it to you, Caleb. It's the book I told you about, and then after that, we can flip it, buy some bourbon with it.
Sounds good. It sounds fascinating.
What was the name of that one more time, David?
It's called Pleased But Not Satisfied.
But Not Satisfied. Okay.
Yeah. And so the executive who wrote it was a CEO of a company that was under Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's company. So it talks about how to run how to always strive for like quality in running a business.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Someone asked what the marketing book was called. It's called The Hawk Method. Hawk like a bird, Hawk Method is what it's called.
So that Pleased But Not Satisfied book is £550 in the UK on Amazon. You can also pick it up for $179 in eBay. There's 3 copies available. So for those that are inclined to do the eFlip model, you could actually potentially buy that on eBay. It looks like there's 3 copies available. They may be counterfeit. There's no actual real photos of it. So tread lightly. Anytime there's expensive books, there tends to be counterfeit. So be cautious.
The other thing too, there's no barcode on this book. There's no ISBN. It's super small run like book. And so I was kind of shocked. I'm like, once I got it and I saw it, and I was like, I feel like I've seen 300 of these, in my lifetime. Cause like just you look at it and you'd be like, oh yeah, this is nothing. You toss it, but it's like a, $200+ book. It just kind of made me like a little, I guess, what is it? FOMO from all the opportunity I might have missed by throwing these type of books away.
Well, shameless plug. We interviewed Max last week and did a little thing. He does a ton of collectible books on eBay. So he specializes in rare books. He knows a ton about books. We kind of joke, don't judge a book by its cover. Max can. He understands what the books are. Books without barcodes are his specialty. And so if you guys missed that, you can search Books and Bourbon episode 5 and check that out. All right, Bill, we stalled long enough. What have you been reading lately in between episodes of Ozark and Billions?
Absolutely. Love both those shows. The Hawk Method, speaking of other shows, is not about the Cobra Kai, right? Okay.
No, that's not.
Some people get that. Some people are like, what is he talking about? I watch a lot of TV on my spare time when it happens. And Better Call Saul is the most phenomenal thing on TV right now. It's on summer hiatus, but if you're not watching that, it's the Breaking Bad prequel. Best thing going. So a book that I can recommend, it's the opposite of David. It's probably $3, $4, $3.99, something like that, or less on a certain website that we won't mention. And it was one of the first business books I read, and every couple of years I come back to it just to kind of refresh. And even though it's dated, it's just one of those sentimental reads for me. It's Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen. He made a sequel, Multiple Streams of Internet Income, because that's how dated this book was. But it really got me thinking about how to scale a business and how to have, to do things and set them up and kind of set it and forget it, but yet monitor and maintain. Because too many people, and I preach this all the time, if you've seen me in person, but value activity over accomplishment. And they like the action, they like the volume, they like the velocity, they like just constantly being busy. But if they're not monitoring their efforts, then they have a lot of activity but no accomplishment. And personally, I like the accomplishment over activity. My goal is to always create something, learn it, track it, figure it out, right? Know how much per hour per day that we need to do, what's the cost, and then how do I scale? How do I pass it off to somebody else? Because it's job creation, job security, and healthy business. So, and that's the book that really got me thinking, back in the day to really pump up what I was doing. And speaking of books, Mr. Roth, didn't you have that particular book with me the last time I saw you, which was like over a month ago?
Yeah, I got sidetracked and got in some other books. I actually read the book on Band and Do. That I've been on a big golf kick lately, so I read that one. It's called Dream Golf, and then so this one got put on the side. And I'm one of those guys. I'm sorry if anybody has OCD, but I actually kind of dog ear some pages to come back and look at later. You guys are all shaking your heads.
I think we need to remove him from the stream and just go on without him.
Please.
So, the other way to do it is to take photos. If anybody has a better method, I'm all ears. But the other way I can do it, because there's things I'll notice. So I'll actually dog ear the top and or bottom, and I'll fold it up depending on where the quote is. So here I've got something I want to follow up on this page, so it's probably in this paragraph or this one, and I'll come back and kind of take notes later after the fact. The other way to do it is to have my phone with me, but I don't like having technology when I'm reading, and take a photo of it and preserve the pages. So if you guys have a better way to take notes, maybe it's a pile of sticky notes, I don't know. I'm all ears. I do like to actively read and come back and kind of take notes and try and learn something from it, because if you don't, what's the point? This is a fun read, but I still do want to take some things away and learn about, something. So always trying to learn, always trying to move forward. I'm sorry if I offended you, and if you have to kick me from the stream, I do understand. So Bill, you brought up the topic of kind of outsourcing based on the book that you were, what was the name of that book again? I want to take a note of it.
Multiple Streams of Income by Robert G., I believe, Allen.
So I will look that one up.
Yeah. And again, you got to remember that, it's well over 20 years old for the book. And then, like I said, multiple streams of internet income followed after. And he may even have something else after that.
But so we'll check that out. So the book has just screamed in shame. I apologize. Later. So Bill, what are some areas that, as you look back over kind of where you got your start and flipping on Amazon and flipping in the actual booth that you were doing, what are some ways that you were good at outsourcing and kind of removing yourself from the equation? And what are some things that maybe you wish you could have gone back and maybe done earlier or better?
So I'll start with the bad first, because that's what I'm always hardest on myself on. Early on, I thought I could do everything, right? And I think lots of entrepreneurs, you have to, because if you're not doing it, nobody else will, right? That's what the role of an owner is, to wear multiple hats, to wear all the hats and to kind of wear them all at once. And it's a real job. It's a real feat to, you kind of got to juggle while things are on fire and spinning the plates all while like ice skating in a hurricane and, blizzard or whatever, right? So, and to try to stay focused on the goal. Which is just sometimes even surviving, right? So, and you kind of take that on as your mission to just do what you can, and you want to do it all. In the blessing of that is you get to learn the business inside and out at every level. The curse of that is you can only go so far. So you really, and that's why I also preach to everybody I talk to on the phone and everybody I onboard and everybody I meet in person at your events, is that you really have to measure every action that you do. From A to Z through your warehouse. That's a Canadian reference. You're welcome. You need to know your costs, your touches, your actions. How much time does it take? Because if it's taking you X amount of time, that can work, but you need to know then how many times can you repeat that an hour and how you can get better. And if you're not tracking it, you have no idea if you're doing better or worse, or what then the expectation is for your employee to do. And once you have that expectation, then you can measure if they're a good employee or a bad employee, and if they're worth paying. And then, of course, at what rate, because every, rates kind of vary throughout the country here, but just things to keep in mind. And, like I said earlier, the goal of every owner should be to know their business inside and out, but create something, track it, know it, and then kind of pass the baton and then still monitor it. You just don't want to wash your hands from it and never talk to them again, or never, follow them and make sure they're doing their job or staying within those good metrics. On the other hand, you want to employ good people that report back to you. And that's why everybody says KPIs and things like that are so important, but really the numbers are the heartbeat of a business. And if you don't know your numbers, you really don't have a business. You can make money and you can have a side hustle, and that's great. Because not everybody wants to have this booming business, and it's no problem, right? There's all sorts of space for all sorts of people in this business. But if you want to scale your business, if you want to grow and you want to kind of have other people doing a lot of the lesser grunt work type of stuff, then you really need to know your numbers, and you really need to, embrace that. And that's another thing that early on I did not embrace. I was like, oh, I'm making money, my bank account's going up, and then sometimes my bank account goes down, and sometimes my bank account is negative. I've been there, right? And it's not fun. But you have to always remember that feeling of how bad it was. And even at the worst, it was still, to me, better than working, and again, at the time, and I did it for 20 plus years, worked for myself, but at the time I never wanted to work for someone else. My goal was to always be independent. And even at the worst, it was still, to me, better than having a 9 to 5 and that daily monotony type of thing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that either, but to me, I didn't want that until the right situation presented itself. And now it's kind of 9 to 9, sometimes 9 to midnight. Thanks, Glenn, but that's okay. I'm here. Happy to do it.
I've got a follow-up question for you, Bill. You mentioned measuring everything in your business, and I completely agree with you. How do you specifically tackle the issue of measuring, I guess, things that are more difficult to be measured, such as quality or accuracy in doing the tasks?
So, quality is one of those subjective things, right? And it is so difficult to teach because all four of us could look at a good book or a very good book or a like new book or an acceptable book and have different things in our mind that we would rate it as. And so you really just have to have pretty loose criteria. And I always say the more difficult and the you have to be direct with your instructions, but the tighter you are with things and the more you explain, you can actually do harm with over explaining. And then, people are like, well, okay, they're worried about like those nuances that are like 5% or less of the situation, right? And so if you don't focus on that and you just say, here's what's good, here's what's very good, and so on and so forth, and give them pretty broad and loose terms, 70% of someone else doing something is better than me trying to do 100% of everything. And no one will ever do 100% of what you're doing. There's just the owner's role. They'll always kind of kick ass and do it pretty well or excellent or, wonderfully, right? But you have to live with that 70% and hopefully more, but as kind of like a minimum threshold, because then you can scale your business. And so you just kind of have to live with the mistakes and the nuances and the errors and things. And, that's why there's margin, right? Margin means you can make mistakes. So.
Yeah. One
great question.
You mentioned. Oh, thank you. You mentioned that.
I'll drink to
I
that.
think we'll grab some bourbon. I'm gone.
You mentioned that you were doing your own thing for the longest time, and in the last couple of years you started working with Glenn. Can you kind of walk us through maybe some of the the biggest differences that maybe took place in that transition, and then maybe also what was one thing that you didn't anticipate, but that changed or that happened in transitioning?
Great question. So, I'd even like to repeat it because I think the Frank Sinatra said a little here. No, working with Glenn.
As you're collecting your thoughts, Bill, just to reiterate, I know you mentioned it in the opener, but so Bill ran his own business for how many years?
Oh gosh, I was dabbling in the e-commerce space on eBay, selling like random stuff in 1996 or 7. So I was 16, 17 at the time. I started with books in 97, 98, and then a quick cool story is that I was playing cards with some buddies, and it got later and later in the night, and one of my fellow degenerate gamblers, it was him and I in the big pot of the night, and I ended up winning. Thank you. And we'd gone back and forth the previous weekends and of the summer and whatever, and sometimes he was a little slow to pay. And so he offered me a deal. He said, I can pay you like half now and half later. And I knew the later would be like way later. He's like, or you can have any of these movies, because his sister worked for Hollywood or Blockbuster or somewhere at the time. And they were like overstock and promo videos and sealed and a combination of the like. And I'm like, I'll take door number 2. And so he's like, you can fill up as many boxes because this is all garbage. We have duplicates and triplicates and quintuplicates or whatever. And I don't know if that's a word, but I'm making it one. Thanks, Frank. And so I took the videos. And so what would have been like $150 later ended up being like almost $2,000 of sales on half.com of these videos. And it was just
crazy.
Like, yeah. And so, I mean, like things like that help fund my business, you know, and I've never, ever told him the story, but, you know, whenever I see him, I'm always still pretty nice to him. He's still a lifelong friend, but yeah, I mean, things like that, you know, and when I was in college, I had the foresight to say that just because our bookstore at Loyola wasn't buying a particular book, I put out the word in my dorm to say, hey, if you don't want the book, if the bookstore isn't buying it, or they're giving you a couple bucks for it, give it to me. I'll read it. I'll do something with it. I'll sell it, you know, whatever. And so most mornings, certainly on a weekly basis, we'd have books piled up in front of our door. And our dorm room was a mini warehouse, and we had the closet in the bedroom, the closet in the foyer, all full of books. And we'd take my laundry basket and we'd drive to the post office with 3 or 4 textbooks almost daily, and more sometimes, you know, whatever. But I got the beer. I was the beer guy for the weekend for my roommates, and it was a good deal because, you know, we didn't have any closets, but we had free beer, and I helped fund the business again on other people's kindness, you know. And so this is not at all related to David's question, but just on the history of things that I did. So sorry to sidetrack you. That's all Caleb's fault. But back to David's question. So, I mean, working with Glenn has been, you know, the best accomplishment and the best feeling. And I never want to let him down. I never want to let anybody I work with or work that works for me. I never want to let people down. Even you three, you know, we're partnered with the whole integration. I don't want to let you guys down. I want to be a good partner to all of our affiliates, all of our clients, all of my coworkers, and all, you know, my boss, right? I always try to put out good into the world, because even if good isn't necessarily coming back to me, it's just my mantra, right? And sometimes I may be quick with text messages because I have a lot going on, and I'm never mad at someone. I'm just very quick because, like, I had right before here, you know, 10 times it went off, and I'm like, I got a webinar, and you know, I got to be fast sometimes. But it's the best feeling to have that accomplishment, to grow a business and to work with people that are like-minded and dedicated and are going to, you know, innovate, right? It's not like we're sitting back. There's some companies that get to a certain point and plateau and kind of take it easy. I met some folks a few months ago that have naps in the middle of their day, and they drink tea, and they have all sorts of breaks, you know, and it's like, I can't imagine, and they're not in the book space, but I bring me competitors like that, right? That are just like kicking up and putting their feet up and relaxing. Like I don't have that bone in me. And, you know, I pride myself on being accessible to everybody. And I think all three of you know, anytime you message me, it's usually within, you know, pretty quick to maximum like an hour, unless I'm on a plane or napping myself, because I do sometimes sleep. But, you know, I love what I do. So to me, it's not even work. And I think that's the greatest joy, getting back to David's question, long circle. You know, working with the crew that I work with now is immense joy. You know, we put out lots of books and good feelings, and just we have fun, you know, and we do it well, and when we add value. It's not like when you make deals in business and in life, if it's one-sided, it can last, but it's only going to last for so long. And like the other side gets upset, and then it breaks. And the best deals are truly a win-win. And in this instance, with what we do, it's a win-win-win, right? The clients win, you guys win, and we win. Everybody wins along the way. And then, of course, the end user, the people that are buying the books, if we sell them to businesses or, you know, individual folks, they're winning too, because they're getting an unbeatable price. So, like, I can't imagine any other combination of something else in another industry that's comparable to the relationship that we have in this space with everybody, you know, watching or that we work with, that just everybody's pulling forward, and it's not at all tilted on any way. So, and that brings me great joy.
Yeah. Well, definitely cheers to that. The
Okay.
every time I hear win-win, I kind of recoil a bit, because typically whoever's saying it is trying to sell. But just having watched you the last couple of years, that I really believe that. And even the people you come across from working your trade shows to, you know, what you're doing now, I can see that, and how you care for the people that you work with and for, and et cetera. I think one of the nuances that David was getting at, and kind of why I asked it, and then it led to this big circle, was you ran your own shop for a while, and then some personal reasons, some health reasons, kind of made the decision to actually go work for someone that you taught the game to, which again, this whole industry tends to come full circle. I still believe there'll be a Netflix documentary someday about the book flipping world. I hope all four of us here are heroes in the story. Maybe we'll be the villains. Who knows? But it's really fascinating to see it's a small industry. You can't stab someone in the back because it will come back to hurt you. And we do tend to care for our own, which is really special and unique. But you went from running your shop to actually working for Glenn. So for those that don't know, people see Bill as the face of Sell Back Your Book. He's actually not the founder, not the the CEO. I don't know what you guys call Glenn, but Glenn runs the business. Bill is kind of the wholesale guru and runs all of those relationships, and he's very good at what he does. But some people would view that as a step back, saying, hey, I want that freedom. I want to run my own shop. What we've actually seen you do, and I've talked to you quite a bit about it, you've now tapped into someone and kind of an entity that has a lot of momentum, and you're able to actually apply your entrepreneurial skills in that world with more resources and actually then essentially throw more fuel on the fire. So I think that's what David was probably asking, if I can read between the lines.
Sure.
What does that transition look like? And for those that may be considering, teaming up with somebody else, what do you look for in that versus, most of us set the gold standard as I want to be an entrepreneur. And once you're there, you never want to go back, but you went back, but in a sense you went forward. So that's maybe something to kind of riff on a little bit.
Yeah. So, when I was running my own business, I felt a definite ceiling in the sense of the things I could accomplish with the teams I had, and both in the offline and online worlds. And there comes a point where if you're not having fun or not enjoying what you're doing, then you need to evaluate and take a step back and figure that out. And I was kind of at that point for the year or two before I got my viral meningitis. And for those of you who don't know, I was in the hospital for a week and lost 26 pounds in a matter of 7 days. And it was just hell. And I don't recommend it in any way. There's just something random that happened. I had stung by a mosquito or something, and whatever. And it kicked my ass. And it took even 6 months to even feel, somewhat normal again, where I wasn't lethargic and just kind of mopey. And, it was, again, not fun. But in doing that, I really at that point evaluated and said, I've had this idea kicking around for a good year. Glenn's working on some projects, and I think now is the time that we could align better. And the fact is, when you're in business, you have to be able to kind of, back like when the internet bubble, when people sold high, or, a few months ago when people were saying, hey, there's going to be a recession. You have to kind of have a good pulse and a good feeling of when to buy and when to sell. Just like when you're at a library sale or buying with a new supplier, you don't want to call a new supplier and be like, oh, I got this $4,000 in my pocket. It's all my last $4,000. I'm going to go all in, right? You want to tread lightly and get a sample. You want to work out a good deal for you and for them, because if it is a good buy, you're going to be a loyal client, and you're going to be, the $4,000 will be well spent. But if you're betting the company or betting your whole, account, it's never a good position to be in. So you kind of have to have a pulse on timing, and that's just kind of gut and experience and, just living life, right? And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but that's, again, it's recoverable as long as you're not all in. But working for Glenn, people know that I'm very, very shy. And so, no? Okay. We complement each other in the sense where he's a big tech person and a big, broad picture, person, and has really good judgment with things. And I like to think that I have really good judgment too, but in a different lane, right? And if we were the same person, I think I talked to Caleb about this before. If you get like 5 engineers in a room to do like one of those safe houses or safe rooms or escape rooms, whatever. If you get like 5 engineers or five people in the same industry together into an escape room, they're probably not going to escape. You need that diversity. You need that variety, right? And Glenn and I, we argue, we disagree, not violently, right? We just have casual conversation, and sometimes he's right, sometimes I'm right, and neither of us like hold it over each other over each other and be like, hey, remember that time where I got you? Like, we're just, when you're wrong, it's an opportunity to grow and to learn, and that's life, right? If you're constantly repeating the same mistakes and you're not learning, and you're doing yourself a disservice. So I always take every opportunity when I'm wrong or something goes wrong to learn and to evaluate and to say, well, it might happen again, but I want to be better prepared for it. And if we're better prepared, then we're going to do better next time. And it may happen over and over and over, but we can iterate better and be more prepared. But that's the strength of Glenn and me, is that we're different people, but yet we have the same goals. And we try to do our best. So,
well, a little side note on something you said: if there's 5 engineers in a room plus Bill, I think they have a pretty good chance of getting out of the escape room. For those that haven't done one, if you can find there's a lot of escape rooms. That was kind of a big trend. I believe they started in Poland, somewhere in Europe, and they kind of spread, and they've been in the US for the last 5, 6, 7 years. One of the biggest groups is The Escape Game. They're in Austin, they're in Orlando, they're in several markets. It's a really good product. So I think we've done 2 of them in Austin, just on different bookseller meetups. They're great. So if you get a chance, go in. You won't regret it. So it's a really fun time. Typically takes anywhere from like 60 to 90 minutes. But Bill's pretty smart and likes to solve riddles. You can really see his wheels turning in his brain, and that's certainly a fun environment. And
there's
I
yet
can
to be an escape house that has contained me. I'm 100%. I'm never been defeated.
Oh,
Really?
all right. Throwing down the gauntlet. If the escape game people are watching, let's
Bring
get
it
Bill in on a really difficult one soon. Maybe we'll try and handicap him and see what we can do. But I would echo the fact, I'm really lucky. I've got 2 of the guys on my team here, in Dave and Matthew, and Bill. You're kind of an honorary team member. We've been working closely for the last probably 18 months, give or take, with the integration on Scout IQ, which has been great. Again, anytime you're throwing money, you're holding your hands out and actually putting money in people's pockets, metaphorically, I guess. That's a really good relationship to have. It's very different than a lot of business relationships. Most of us are playing defense, and people are reaching out trying to sell products and services. And for those that are watching, if you are our customer, we really do appreciate you. If we're not just sitting here trying to shove software or products or training or any of that, like, we really want you to grow and develop. I just lost my entire train of thought where I was going with that, but yeah.
I've got a question unless you figured it out.
I was just going to say, I think it's really important. Like, there's a phrase in life and in business that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And so I consider myself fortunate with working with the 3 of you, and specifically Dave and Matthew. Is there's times when it feels like we're going slow, we're disagreeing on things, we're trying to hammer out exactly the right way to do it. But having different perspectives around you is really, really valuable to driving a business forward. So for those of you that might be at a crossroads, you're trying to figure out if you want to bring in a partner, maybe team up with somebody else. Make sure you don't just jump into it willy-nilly. Working with family can be difficult. Make sure that you've kind of vetted the person as well. But if you can find quality individuals to do business with, 100% do it. You're going to get a different perspective. It's going to strengthen you. It's going to learn you. It's going to teach you interpersonal skills, and you will tend to go farther as opposed to faster. Go ahead, David.
All right. So, Bill, I'm just curious. I know I know a lot about Sell Back Your Book, and you guys have accomplished so much in the last couple of years. Is there anything in the pipeline that you'd want our viewers to know about? Anything exciting? Maybe sell Dave your books. I heard that's kind of a here. Let's see.
We have that domain. We just bought it. Somebody did. We always have lots of irons in the fire. As my job as a sales director, and I kind of think of myself as the growth director as well. It's been a lot of my vision to present things up and down the line to see if it's viable or worthwhile to do. We're always testing different things here or there, sometimes successful, sometimes not. And again, that's business and that's life. But nothing to announce yet. But things are always a brewing. That's what I can say. And anytime we can add value to our buyers or our sellers or our partners, that's a win. And as long as it's scalable and producible and profitable or worthwhile to do, not everything we do has to be profitable. If it means offsetting the carbon or recycling or this or that, that's fine too. But we want it to be something that we can kind of set and forget and then repeat. And how many times can we do it? That's the goal. So, but I can promise you, there's always irons in the fire of things down the line, things coming, and that's the fun part, right? We can innovate, we can dream. Glenn told me many years ago, nothing's impossible, and we just try to make it happen and try to think of the unthinkable, right? So
That's like a fortune cookie phrase to leave you all with.
That's actually, I read it last night. So,
well, sellbillyourbook.com is taken. I think, Bill, you probably have that. Sell Dave your book is available. So,
ooh.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas, David.
I have a question for you, Bill. So,
hi.
We've been talking a lot about how you got started and stuff like that and what you guys are doing now, but we have a lot of new people coming into the Facebook group, Scout IQ, et cetera, all the time that probably are not familiar with Sell Back Your Book services or what in the world it could do for them. So what could you do for someone that just downloaded Scout IQ? And if you're going to buy their books, why in the world would you buy books that Scout IQ says have no value? What do they do? What's the process look like for them to actually make money with you like we've been talking about?
This is wonderful. So part of the partnership that we have, it makes sense for sellers of all sizes. And the beauty of it is when Scout IQ so beautifully says, you can make $1 on FBA or $2 on Merchant Fulfilled, but that Sell Back Your Book is say $1.50, right? So, sometimes the offer is better than one, but worse than the other, or very similar. And it's always to me, the bird in hand is money to take. And it's really compelling because that $1.50 that we're offering, you might get $2 if it sells in a few months, and there's a cost to doing that. There's a cost to acquire that money. It could be a crappy book. It could have dog ears. It could be in a bad condition that then ultimately nets you a refund. It could get lost by Amazon. It could be bad feedback. It could be a whole slew of things, right? And not to be like a scare tactic here, but like that's part of the value we add. If you have a book in a condition that's like suspect, send it to us. If it's nominally different, the cost to get that money, the bird in hand money now, you can redeploy that. You give me $1, I can flip it 6 times in enough in a few months and make that $10. I can take that $10 and do it and make it into 20. And by the end of the year, I can outpace the $1 you give me just by being smart, doing flipping. Like that's how I built the business in a different way, right? And so to me, I was always a turn and burn type of seller. So I was always trying to acquire that money as quick as I can because I know I can double, triple, et cetera, 5x, 10x it. 10x, right, Caleb? That's an inside joke. I know I can do that quite well. So there's a value to sellers like that. With the shipping fees that are increasing come next month, you want to know your thresholds. You want to make sure you're making money. You want to make sure that 90+% of your transactions are making you money and profitable. Some are nice to pad because they're just selling the books and helps with feedback or just helps you break even or get that recoup your cost, because recouping is just as important many times as making money. But that's the value we add for those sellers. For our bulk people, there are books that are not even marginable on Amazon or online at all, but we still need them because our network is so big and so growing that we can buy them. And to us, selling one of those books at a time isn't profitable, but selling 50, 100, 200, whatever, that's how it works, and that's the value that we add. So it's, again, economies of scale. So
yeah.
How many books do people need to be able to send them to you? Can they send you a single book, or is there a certain quantity limit you guys have right now?
Great question. So our services are free, by the way. We pay for all the shipping, and I think it's $7.50, I believe.
I don't have a way to show 50, so $7.50.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, pardon my little ignorance on that, I focus mostly on the bulk end. So the consumer end sometimes changes things, and then I say something, and I'm like, well, that's a little dated, but yeah, $7.50 stuck in my mind. I don't think we've changed that. So good to know I'm still on that part. But yeah, our services are free. We pay for the shipping. We have amazing customer service. Kudos to our customer service manager, Lola. I know she's watching, hopefully still. And I mean, she's one of the best in the business and just brings a smile and joy to our office every day. And it's, the team that we have is just incredible. And it's a joy to work with everybody. Bulk program has been a game changer for us, all while using Scout IQ's integration. There you go. Thank you, Facebook user. Appreciate it. Very nice of you. Very nice of you. When are you going to commit? Soon, Jesse, soon. You've been very vocal on here. I appreciate it. Every time I take a swig, you give me a text.
It is not that world. So again, for those that don't know the integration, you can turn it on. Actually, it will be on by default with our.
Thank you. We've been begging for that for months and months.
It's coming. You just have to twist my arm a few more times. But so you see that every time you scan a book, you'll see your results on the triggers. You also see sell back your book's offer. And we didn't just pick sell back your book because Bill has a good taste in bourbon. They are actually the #1 buyer of books. We did all of our research on Book Scouter, analyzed a bunch of vendors. They don't always offer the highest price on every single book, but they have the best coverage, and we monitor that regularly to make sure that's still a good fit. They are very generous. A lot of times you'll send a book to a buyback vendor and they'll say, hey, it doesn't match the condition, and they'll reject it. And Sell Back Your Book has always been very, very kind and generous when it comes to that. So they've been a great vendor. I know lots of you have sent them books. Every once in a while, we see it in the group, and it's actually more than every once in a while. There's books, because most of us sell FBA, and due to the fee structure and everything else that goes into it, they're a little more creative. They have more outlets. They sell in bulk. They have economies of scale. And there's many times when I can sell a book FBA and net $3, and they're actually offering $3.25. That's a no-brainer. Maybe I could sell it merchant fulfilled, maybe make a little bit more. Maybe they've got outlets outside of Amazon, heaven forbid. And so those are great. There's a lot of times when it's sure to toss a book their way. Other times it does get close. And Bill mentioned knowing your numbers earlier. If you have a warehouse and have to pay your employees to list the book merchant fulfilled, pay the labor to set it on the shelf, pick that book later, deal with the 10 to 20 to 30% of books that may not sell eventually. If you don't understand what that cost is, that might cost you 75 cents in labor and time and supplies and everything else to pick that order. And so if Sell Back Your Book can get within roughly 75 cents or whatever that cost is for you, then for sure you should toss it in Gaylord and forget about it. So for those of you that do the bulk program, little shameless plug, if you are selling bulk books, if you're operating, whether it's a small warehouse, large warehouse, or if you're operating on a different planet, maybe. I don't know if anybody's watching from a different planet, but if that's you, reach out. We do have a kind of an invite only. And if you're watching this, consider this your invite. We do have a lovely bulk tool that helps you scan one time and get multiple results, which is pretty fascinating. And for those of you that are not doing bulk but still want to get it, it's in Scout IQ's settings. Just go down to wholesale integration, hit the on. Oh, look at Matthew, you're all over this.
Wow.
The graphic on there.
Look at that real estate. That's like prime. That's like Manhattan level real estate. Wow. Beautiful. Park Place
So,
over there.
that's a great example. You can kind of compare that side by side. And if you want to add it to cart, you simply tap that green. So I was going to say circle, but it's a rectangle. Just checking my tape still. The rectangle. You can tap that, add it to your cart, and off we go. So that's a pretty good integration.
Pretty good integration. I think it's the best in the business.
Yeah.
First,
well, I won't disagree.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we will. Any other questions for Matthew or David? We've already gone over our hour. We tend to take these things about 75 to 90 minutes. If you guys have questions, do that. We might try and get Bill to pour a second glass of bourbon here while he's still.
I'm already on 2. I'm about to hit 3. So I got all the time.
You get exciting. So this is a pretty special experience. Bill is very engaged on the Facebook groups. He is pretty generous with his time. I know a lot of you reach out. Bill and I got to, we spend a little bit of time together at conferences and just hanging out. He's actually one of the rare guys in business that it's actually, I'd consider you a friend. So I appreciate the time we've got to spend together. But I don't actually think he sleeps. He's on his phone. He's on his email. He actually has 2 pagers. I was very shocked to see. I asked why 2. He said, well, if his phone goes out, he wants to have a backup. And then said, then he wants to have a backup for the backup. So he is on his game. I think you do need to outsource some of your things, but for those that work with him, you know that he's very easy to work with. So all that to say, we've got one of the best in the business, and we got 2 of the best in the business with David here as well. But if you guys want to pick either of their brains, feel free. But specifically, if you want to let's lob some softball questions to Bill and see what happens.
I pride myself on being accessible, and I feel that there are 24 hours in a day, and how many people can I reach and talk to and impart my wisdom on, for better or for worse, right? I beat my head against the wall so many times when it was my business and got quote unquote headaches of running into problems. And if I can help alleviate even just one person a day or a week to not make the same mistakes I did, then that's great. And I always say, the better bookseller, the better business person, the better book scouter, the better whatever I can make you, then by default, you're gonna make more money because you're gonna process more items. But by default, then you're gonna ship us more items. So that's how we're aligned, right? So everybody has my number. You're free to text me anytime, and I'm happy to always schedule a call and talk and help grow your business. I mean, that brings me great joy. And I know I've said that before, even today, but like I get so much happiness by seeing the folks that worked with us early on grow their business. And we've had a real impact of having them, get bigger warehouses or add more people or take on more risk and hedge their bet. Because that's all we're doing in this business, right? We're buying the unknown and hoping to make a profit. And the more and more you can hedge that bet and get more creative with your output and whittle down your duds to near next to nothing without getting caught in the weeds of like trying to get to zero, because nobody will ever do that, and be profitable along the way, then that's a win. So
it's awesome. While we're waiting for questions, do you mind if I ask you a question? It's more on the entire used book space, maybe more of a macro question. Sure. One of the things that my friends and I in the business joke about is like the price of everything is going up: gas, milk, real estate, everything but used books is going up in price. And I'm sure you see that kind of on a larger scale. How does that affect your business? You mentioned the rate hikes for postage next month, 8.5% on the 10th, I believe. That's going to have a real effect on your bottom line. Will that affect how much SBYB purchases, or how do these macro factors affect your business?
So, I mean, everything affects our business in that sense. However, it's our job to try to counterbalance that and to try to maneuver so that it's less and less impactful. It's tough to quantify, exactly what we're doing, but we're trying to do our best to do that. It's our goal to keep our catalog right around 1 million books that we're buying. It's our goal to get it to 1.2, 1.3, 1.5 million. I think we can get there, but it'll take some more creativity on our everything effort, right? But that's where we're headed, and hopefully we get there. So,
have you noticed as you continue to scale up the incremental change, the incremental growth that you hope to achieve at scale? I'm guessing it becomes increasingly more difficult to scale, even from 1 million to 1.2. I'm sure that's a lot more difficult than, say, 500,000 to 700,000.
Oh, for sure. But that's also why, on the opposite effect, right? Even a 1% gain or 1%, cut, 1% cut of costs or 1% gain of efficiency or savings or whatever, it can be monumental at scale. So like 1% when you're, on your garage and whatever is like, not even noticeable, right? It's like a rounding error, whatever. But like 1% at scale is actually meaningful. That's like real jobs and real profit and real something, right? We can deploy that somewhere, somehow, and do good with it. So, we're always very mindful of that. And the one promise I made on day one to Glenn is that I'd spend his money as if it was my own. And other than some Scott IQ sponsorships and what have you, that he probably wouldn't approve of, but he did. But it's money well spent, and I always made that promise to him, and I would continue it. Right, I don't take it for granted because the life of any business is the bank account and the numbers and keeping that cash flow moving in a positive direction.
You mentioned the 1% up or down being a big, it's a real number at scale, and fluctuations of 1 to 2, 3 points is inevitable in business. Things just happen.
Yep.
Is there something that you do in particular that helps you, I guess, de-risk or I guess deleverage your risk? Manage and balance your risk in those cases?
Just keeping a pulse on everything, and it's not easy to do, right? Because it can, the first April I was there. So I started in February of 2019. So February, March, April. So 2 months into the job, we had a whole 4 sections of shelving collapse on a Saturday night. So we show up Monday and just the, part of the warehouse is just leveled. And it's just one of those things that happened. And it's like, okay. And then the next April, by chance, something else happened that was pretty monumental to the business. And I can't.
COVID?
Yeah, that's it. I wish I was joking, but for a second, I forgot about COVID. Yeah, it was COVID. So basically we didn't know what was happening then. And then the next April, I think that's where I was hung up on exactly. Something else happened that was like not as monumental than COVID, but like something else happened. So it was 3 Aprils in a row. And it's like, you can't plan for it. But these things happen in business. So you just have to be always ready. And, that's why I say like betting the business or betting betting everything and going all in can be fun and exciting. But like at some point, the odds are it's going to catch up with you. So that's why you want to take and manage your risk and hedge your bet. Again, another reason why to have sell back your book in your mix, because you can hedge your bet on the books you're buying and you can turn them into cash and then, get that cash flow.
I mean, yeah, I think ultimately, like from my experience in this business, you just have to have a lump of cash sitting in reserves just in case something happens, especially, playing in other people's playgrounds, whether it's Amazon or eBay or even half.com shutting down, a couple, 10 years ago. And so,
Still hurts
again,
me.
Pardon me?
It still stings. They were my
I know.
first love, like they're gone.
Yeah.
But not forgotten.
But just having a huge pile of reserves, I think is just super important, especially in this industry.
It certainly helps, but you have to go back to the mindset and the reality of where you were when you started, right? You didn't have that. Nobody did, or maybe some people did because of other factors, right? But like when you're growing a business, you really have to bootstrap and be creative. And I mean, I really feel that I was able to stretch a dollar almost better than anyone because I had to many times, right? It was so many times where it was one step forward, one step back, one step forward, 2 steps back, one step forward, 3 steps back. I mean, the very first book festival that I did, I took inventory that we had literally just listed the day or 2 before, and it was earmarked to go on our shelves, and we actually accidentally sent it in the truck to go downtown to Chicago. And so that was like a Thursday night, Friday morning load, and then Saturday, I'm at the festival selling. I'm like, wait a minute, we just listed this. This is a $12 book. This is a $15 book. Why are we selling it for $5? And we had to cancel over 300 orders at the time that next Monday. And that was the time detrimental to my Amazon account. And like, it was a nightmare situation. And I mean, they were quality books, but we were way more giving them away than we should have. And we had misallocated stuff and very, very unfortunate, survived. But like, you can't plan for mistakes. You can't plan for, these things. And at the time, I mean, I was forced to, run up credit cards and do this and that and get creative with things, but you do what you can to survive sometimes almost maniacally or like insanely so, because you believe in what you're doing, and if you believe in what you're doing, then that's the ultimate like proving point, because that's what's going to take. Sometimes it's what it takes to survive. And it's crazy, but if you have a goal and you believe in it, you got to do it and you got to just do whatever it takes. So
think of the unthinkable. It's gonna be the tagline. Well, we've got a bunch of questions that have been rolling in. I think Matthew,
right. Let's do it.
Let's try and do some rapid fire here. Some are a little more in depth. Some are a little simple. So we'll see what we got here.
We'll do some simple ones first. Here you go, Bill.
Does SBYB do collectibles? Okay. Hi, John. Thanks for writing in. Hope you're okay. I don't know, but seems like a good fella. We don't do collectibles yet, I would say. You never know what we're up to, but stay tuned. Maybe. So, Bill from Brad. Bill, will you always keep the limit of just 1 copy per book? I get this question more than like almost any question. Like
if I had $1.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This question from my daughters, Dad, are you really our dad? I get those questions all the time.
That's the third talking.
So yeah, unfortunately, on the consumer side, we do have limits, and it's one of those things that we'd love to adjust. However, I will tell you that On many items, your account should auto adjust like after a certain amount of time. Every book has its own metric. Every book has its own like time of holding. So book A might be 2 months, book B might be 9 months, and book C might be never. Just the way it goes. It's all computers and algorithms and above my pay grade. And I just let the computers take over the world as they're about to do any day now. And I don't worry about it.
Another good Dave reference there. Dave.
Yeah,
Dave. Odyssey.
But thanks for the question, Brad. Cody, I know Cody. I've been using the bulk tool program for several months now. He has. I have several antique books that I send my good duds to, booths that I send my good duds to. When I clean the shelves every few months, there's always new picks for SBYB. Are there certain times of the year I should rescan my books to ensure using my time wisely? So personally, I think rescanning anything is not a good use of your time. You want to be as efficient as possible and imagine that your feet are in concrete buckets, hopefully not in a bottom of a pond or lake somewhere. But then you got more problems than you know what to do with. But you want to limit your actions and coach and teach your employees to limit their actions. And a lot of folks recently are getting conveyor belts and things like that help streamline that process and automate the process. But that's like next level stuff. But in the meantime, tippers, dumpers, tables, everything like that, measuring and picking up books sometimes by the handful or like by the binful if you're using boxes or whatever and scooping them up that way, different things you can do. You can always have a bias on like what you should do or what you see on a video because somebody cool or maybe successful or maybe popular or whatever does it that way. But until you do it and see it, test it, and then measure it, that's what has to dictate your workflow. And you should do different ways and different methods and time it and count it out and figure it out. But so to me, double scanning is never a good idea in that sense. But as for like peak, I'll get to you in a second, Mike. As for peak times, January and February stuff spikes because of textbook season, and then January alone because of the holidays, kind of peak prices, and then of course anytime in August through like mid-September. But again, holding stuff to rescan it, you're better off just pulping it and doing something else, anything else than doing that, in my opinion. Prove me wrong. Mike, medium well, next. Nathan, I know Nathan too, and I know Mike, and Mike's an awesome guy. Any good ideas on an option to sell acquired textbooks from bulk inventory? Good quality, just not profitable on Amazon. Nathan already uses our bulk tool, and so we're not buying them there. You can, depending on your quantity, you could reach out to some wholesale textbook folks, but usually they won't talk to you unless you have like thousands or consistency. Again,
I think the question, and maybe Nathan, if I know there's usually a little bit of a lag. I think the question is more just like textbooks that don't have value today on Amazon. Maybe you guys aren't buying them right now either. Is there a good way to monetize those? Because in general, textbooks are higher value. So we all see it. We come across old readers, old textbooks. Yeah. At one point it was $100 book, maybe a $200 book, and now it's nothing. So if I'm guessing right, maybe I'm incorrect. So if so, sorry to jump in. But I think his question is there a good outlet for kind of old textbooks that have lost their Amazon value?
What's I mean? I would contact wholesalers to see if they're buying it for other schools and things, like Nebraska or MBS or somewhere like that. But again, you'd have to have quantity, not just like onesies, twosies. So it depends on the context of it kind of as well in that sense. But, textbooks do kind of rise from the dead sometimes based on like one particular professor deals with that particular edition of that particular book and only uses that because it's 20 years old. That's the book that they've used their whole career. So sometimes you might see stuff like that. I've seen it plenty of times, but to hold it to wait for an August session. All
right, last one we got here. This might be a David question too, but what should you accomplish to get special rates from USPS cheaper than medium mail or bound printed matter? Caleb might have a good thing on this too.
Volume is pretty much the basic one. So they're going to have set volume limits. You can pre-sort to kind of get some cheaper rates, and then you can also explore other options. DHL is going to be an option. There's some other places out there as well. So just talk to people. But in general, the bigger you get, the more options you're going to have. It's kind of like the pretty girl at the dance. She can kind of choose who to dance with. We don't do enough merchant fulfill volume to do that, but we do a fair amount of volume with our consignment between FedEx and UPS. And it's really funny. It's kind of interesting. You can see when they're struggling, or when prices are going up quite a bit in the shipping world, especially in the LTL world. I think there's concerns that diesel fuel is going to be limited. There's definitely driver shortages and truck shortages. So we've seen, shipping 2 pallets a couple states over to Indiana a year ago was about $350 total. And I think we're paying closer to $600 now. So it's nearly doubled. I know, Bill, you've seen that as well in the LTL world. But in terms of just FedEx and UPS having options, the two of them kind of go back and forth, and we get calls occasionally from either one trying to earn back the business. So the same thing happens when you get volume. The bigger you are, the more they want your business. And so you can kind of pitch them against each other as well.
And you get a little leverage too, In business, you want to have leverage to make some moves, and you want to just try to have that. It's a good thing.
Yep. Well, that's pretty much it for the main bulk of the questions there.
Feels like we just started. Only an hour and 28 minutes and 29 seconds ago. Huh.
Well, your Jack Daniels in the background is made for about a 5 or 6 hour session, so at least.
Yes. Alexa's going off. Sorry. Kids were strictly told leave Jeff Bezos's secret listing machine alone, but that's okay.
Here he is. He knows we're talking about him. Well, Bill, thanks for your time. You definitely give a lot back to the community in terms of your attention. Of course, dollars back in many of our pockets, or most of our pockets, which we appreciate. But time is all of our most important resource, and thanks for sharing 90 minutes of yours with all of us. And for those of you that are watching, if you did enjoy it, you can check Bill out. You can, of course, sell back your book, check out their integration in Scout IQ as well. And Frank Sinatra says hello as well. I'm surprised you didn't sing for us. Bill, is there a way that people can track you down specifically, or if they know, and that's as far as it goes?
No, I always put out my information there. So it's Bill at Sell Back Your Book, only one book, please, .com, not the, okay. And then my number is 708-825-7952. You can text me anytime. Oh my gosh, someone's already, no, okay. That quick. People with their phone in their hand ready to go. And I'm happy to shed some time and spend some time and shed some light on, 25 plus years of doing this. And again, just have fun. Have fun. Make some money, have fun. Understand, I was told long ago when there was a pivotal moment in the business, and someone very, very wise said to me, what kind of business do you want to have? Do you want to have a profitable one? Do you want to have freedom? Do you want to have time? What do you want to do? And I had to make that decision of like, do I want to have freedom? Do I want to have time? Do I want to have, what do I want to have? And, of course you want it all, but like, what do you want sooner than later? And there's no shame. There's plenty of space, and there's no shame in having a very small, manageable garage business or home business or storage unit business or little warehouse business or big warehouse business. Like, you have to decide what gets you, because at different levels, everybody wants kind of what they used to have. And I also heard that long ago too. And everybody reminisces of like the good old days when it was easy and fun. And don't put yourself in a position where you get your business to something where it's overwhelming and not fun, because then you're doing yourself more harm. We only go through this life one time. So you want to do yourself and your family or whoever you have around you the best you can with being there and being available. And that's why I'm available for all of you, because you're all like family. See how I wrap it all around? You're welcome.
Matthew, do you have a giveaway?
We said anyone that joined our text list, so I can do that real fast. Let me sort those. Give me 1 second.
Get that going.
What are we giving away?
Red Sox.
What are we giving away? Bill, what should we
great question. I thought it was a date night with Bill, but I could be wrong. Is that
well, unfortunately, however, I'll take anybody out to dinner, but they have to fly to Chicago and be available tonight, because it's my only free day till July 1.
Are you open for a 30-minute consultation, Bill?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, whatever. That's no problem. Gladly. Yeah, let's do 2 of them. How about that? That's how good I'm feeling today.
Look at this.
All right, that's a 2 for Thursday.
We do say, someone did ask if you could repeat your number. So I heard a 708 in there. You want to run through your digits one more time?
708 92. Sorry, just kidding. Okay, 708. I totally did that. I didn't break up here. 708 825 7952.
And when you call, don't forget to ask how you can get a special copy of tonight's episode called.
Don't call, text, please, and then we'll talk. But like, I like to schedule things. Like,
Perfect.
phone
And
goes
for
off.
those that, speaking of phone numbers, if you want to join Scout IQ's text messaging system, something Matthew's been very passionate about, we do alert people when we do these live sessions. So in case you get carried away in your day job or tracking down books, we do alert you that these are coming up. Matthew, how can people join the text list?
Let me throw that up here right now. I think I have that. It should be bit.ly. It's on the description of this video. Look at the description of the video wherever you're watching. There should be a link for that text list, or in your email if you're a customer of Scout IQ. I believe it's bit.ly.com/ or bit.ly/Scout IQ -text. Yeah, Scout IQ -txt, all lowercase. bit.ly/Scout IQ.text, all lowercase. And you can get on that list. Text or TXT will work for that. But I have the winner here. So the winner for today was Victor Moorhead. I've got his email here. I will shoot you an email, Victor, and then get you connected with Bill for that giveaway today.
Cool.
And Bill did say he'd do two. So
Two, all right.
Victor's not alone. He's a co-winner. So Victor, sorry, you're a winner,
No,
but you're not the only
we'll
winner.
do one more winner here as well. And for those that are watching this later, do check out the links below. Of course, like and subscribe and all those good things. Tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your kids, tell your and don't tell your enemies. But do check that out. You can join. There's a link somewhere below, maybe to the side, depending on where you're watching this. But do check that out and join the text list. We will not spam. We will not sell it to the Russians. We will use it for important communication only.
Winner number 2.
All right. Winner number 2 is Lauren Vogding, Vogeding.
Congratulations, Lauren. All right. Victor and Lauren.
Victor and Lauren will be
Victor and Lauren. All right. I'll put both those emails down. I'll give those to you, Bill.
Yep. Cool. I would like to jump ahead before you close and just hijack this for a minute as well. Before we go away, I'm trying to get the longest web stream that we've had in this, because we all know what the number 6 is absolutely always the best. Like lucky number 7, forget it. Just end on a high note. Books and Bourbon, done. Cool. No, okay. Good luck next week. I set the bar wherever I set it, and hopefully you definitely.
We're already scheduled at least 2 weeks out at this point, so we're not quitting after 7. Sorry.
All right,
sorry.
all right. But in all honesty and in all sincerity, and just it's a pleasure to have met all 3 of you, and to be, yes, your friend. I know Caleb mentioned that earlier, but I consider all 3 of you a friend, and it's been amazing to work with all 3 of you in different capacities, and I look forward to the future. We look at, as a Sell Back Your Book company, on a personal level, I really enjoy all of our time that we spent together. I learned from you all. I will continue to learn from you all. I learned from anybody I talk to in this business, big or small. I seemingly always leave one of those turn the page events with a good takeaway, believe it or not. And the value of those events is that you can network and learn and really just, it puts a different perspective on what you're doing. And back in my day, when I would go to different conferences, one little tip, one little nugget, one little something can pay for that whole event. So I highly recommend going to them. A. B, Sell Back Your Book also enjoys them, and we have pledged, and we will pledge again today, that we will continue to sponsor all of them in the future, as long as, we set that Denver date to where I can go and be there. Okay. But on a business level, we truly also enjoy working with all of you and all the clients, everybody listening here, whether you use us or not. Definitely use buyback companies, no matter who they are. I won't talk about the other ones, but they're great value for your business, because there's always something that you can pick up and flip and monetize. And cash and cash flow is the livelihood and breathing part of any business. So track what you do, love what you do, and just have fun and be good to people, because you never know. When I met this guy, Glenn, and I'm still on the phone, in his phone, by the way, last nugget, I'm still in his phone as Bill the Envelope Guy. 20 some years of knowing this guy, still I'm building envelope guy. And because I decided to have a little side hustle at these library sales I was going to sell other vendors bubble mailers, I connected with this person who then we worked with and together for many, many years along the way. And now we're doing this. So it's like this little connection that was a nothing thing that I won and done that truckload of bubble mailers, and that led to this and to help serve the community. So like, never devalue someone you meet or dismiss someone you meet in the industry, because you just never know where it could take you. And I'm living proof of that. So, value contacts, meet people, talk to people. If you're introverted, get out of your shell a little bit. Sometimes the booksellers at the library sales and things and the thrift stores are I see all the chatter. I read everything in the groups, everything. It's my job, but I did it before it was my job, and now somebody pays me. But I know that some of you are a little perhaps introverted or set in your ways. I am too, but get to know people. Take a step back and just put out good, and you never know what can happen. I'm living proof of it. Gentlemen,
love it.
Cheers.
Gentlemen,
Cheers.
on that note, we'll be signing off. And thanks for your time. We'll catch you next Thursday for installment episode number 7 of Books and Bourbon. Have a lovely day, evening, morning, wherever it is for you. And we'll catch you real soon. Thanks, everybody.